Hey, welcome. This is Efkan. I'm a psychologist and I live with borderline personality disorder. In this video, we're going to talk about one of the core symptoms of BPD, which is emptiness. By the end of the video, you will know what it is, what it feels like, and what can help. So, when people hear the word emptiness, they often think it means sadness, loneliness, or depression. But it can be linked indirectly to those things, but is also something that stands on its own, especially in the context of BPD. So let's first start with the feeling. How does it feel? For everybody's different, but there are many similarities. So I've been diving into some research, and I found this amazing article where the researcher talked to multiple people with BPD, and she asked them a simple question. She asked, "Can you try to make me understand what emptiness is for you?" Unsurprisingly, what she found was that people found it hard to describe it exactly because it's kind of in the name, isn't it? Emptiness. So, how can you describe something that has no real substance? That is why she asked for an analogy to make it easier for them, and thankfully that helped. So one person described emptiness as numbness, and they compared it to a dead leg. You know, that feeling when you sit on your leg for too long and it goes numb. You can still sense something, but it feels fuzzy and dead at the same time. So, and another person described it like being in a dark room. And she said, it's like being in a dark room and you're just sitting in the middle of it, completely alone. And then there was this metaphor about the weather that I think also is accurate. One person said, emptiness is like misty, cloudy, overcast day. The wind is cold, but it's not aggressively windy. It's not really raining, just a little bit. It's not that cold, but it's chilly. And whatever you do, you can't get warm. When you hear these descriptions, a theme becomes very clear. Emptiness is not just feeling bad. People rather describe it as a state of being numb or not feeling anything. A sort of deadness of the soul, having no real sense of what makes me me. Like, these are my values, these are my goals, this is what I feel like, this is what I dislike. None of that, because that would mean there's someone there. With emptiness, there's nobody there to even have preferences or dislikes. As if you are a hollow biological organism and there's nobody inside, you know? So when you're experiencing emptiness, you're kind of disconnected from yourself and also others. So that's kind of like the core. A total disconnect accompanied by a vague feeling of numbness and nothingness. So it isn't a clear emotion like sadness or anger. And what makes it different from loneliness, for example, is this. With loneliness, you can still feel who you are, what you want, what you don't like. There's still somebody inside of you, but you just don't feel connected to others. And to really check whether it's loneliness or emptiness, you can just get in touch with people. And if you like them, of course, get in touch with people you like. If the feeling goes away, it was probably loneliness. But emptiness is harder to get rid of because it deals with both the connection with yourself and others. So in the interview, they also said it comes with a sense of purposelessness, like life has no direction, like you're going through the motions, being robotic, there's no bigger meaning to anything, and that it can really shut you down when you're in the midst of it. You just don't want to do anything because why would you? To want to do something means sort of a reward for something that you care about. But when you feel like there's no real person inside of you, there won't be anybody inside to first determine what is valuable. And let's say you can pull it off to even receive the reward, but why bother? Because there's nobody inside to receive it. So often people find it very hard to deal with it, more than even depression, because some forms of depression can even be motivating to do something because you want to get out of the sadness. But with sadness, typically, you don't have to wonder if you're a person with goals, values, and dislikes. Deep down, you know somebody's still in there that can, if certain things change, feel better. But with emptiness, it is almost as if, even if everything changed, there won't be a person inside of me to even experience the change. There's also a very common pattern about when it shows up. Emptiness often shows up when you're not distracted. So during the day, work can distract you from it. The gym can distract you from it. Being around people can distract you from it. And then you're alone with yourself and boom, it hits. Some people also describe it as zoning out. Not like a full-on dissociation, more like you're going on autopilot and time keeps moving and you know the time is moving, but you don't really feel present. So, you know, what to do with this feeling? And a lot of people actually try to escape it. And often that escape is impulsive, not because, you know, someone is chasing fun or something, but because they're trying to generate any feeling at all to get away from the numbness, to feel alive again. It's also one of the biggest predictors of, unfortunately, self-harm, suicidal behavior, and promiscuity. Usually, when we do such things, we had a period of feeling very empty right before. And we do those things to escape the nothingness by being impulsive. So, what is this though? Like, why do we have this and what can we do against it? So, there are basically two good theories that have good evidence behind them that we should discuss. One theory is about being emotionally so overwhelmed that we use emptiness as a way of shutting everything down. The other angle is about how we develop an identity through interactions with others. That is mentalization theory. So, let's start with the first one. In the biosocial model, it basically comes down to this. People with BPD often have a hard time managing emotions. So, emotions can come fast, they can be intense, and they can shift quickly. So within a few hours, we can go through multiple emotions, often even contradictory ones. And when an emotion hits, it also takes us longer to get back to normal. If, for example, someone else recovers in, let's say, 30 minutes or an hour, for us, it can take the whole day to get back to normal. So the overwhelm comes from four things, basically. 1, our emotions are more intense. 2, more frequent. 3, they can shift quickly between different emotions, often even contradictory ones. And 4, and they are slower to settle back to normal than for people without BPD. So in this model, emptiness can be understood as a way to deal with that overwhelm. Short term, it can function like a shutdown, basically. So it blocks off most emotions and it creates numbness and emptiness. And in the moment, that can prevent things from escalating. So it can keep us from doing something that could really damage ourselves or other people, or just help us dealing with extreme emotions by shutting everything down. But it comes with a price, unfortunately, because when the mind blocks off emotions, it can also block off the emotional signals that normally guide us. Signals like, this matters to me, this is not okay for me, oh, I need distance, or I need connection. So instead of feeling flooded, we feel empty. That is the biosocial angle. So now the second theory is mentalization. This theory is much more a lack of stable identity theory and how that's causing us to feel empty. So let's say as a baby and as a young kid, our brain is not developed yet, so not even close. So we're basically a bundle of impulses and reactions. Our body is changing all the time. Our nervous system is trying to sync everything. We have all these inner signals, but we don't know automatically what to do with them or to even understand them. So we learn usually by looking around. We look at our environment, and especially we look at our parents. That is where mirroring comes in. So when a baby's upset, ideally the parent notices it and reflects it back. Not with words necessarily, but it's more like what is being said in a literal sense is only a small part of it. It's much more through facial expression, tone of voice, and body language. It is like the parent saying, I see you, I get what is happening, and I can handle what you are feeling, so you will also be able to handle it and understand it. You are safe. And, over time, the baby starts to learn what the inner signals mean. Oh, this feeling is sadness. This one is fear. And, oh, this is anger. And it makes sense that I feel like this because of what is happening in the outside world. And this is where identity building comes in. So if you keep feeling a certain way about something you are doing or seeing, you start to build a sense of an identity. For example, I like this a lot, so this must be me. Wait a second. This is me. Or something like, oh, I don't like this at all, even though I've tried it many times, so I am not this way, etc. So you're building an identity this way. And you start to see that part of you that's unique, that part of you that is from birth, what you are destined kind of to grow into under the right circumstances. So identity building is not something you do alone. It is a process that happens in relationships, especially as a young kid and as a baby. You need other people to notice what you feel, reflect it back, and make it understandable. And in a safe environment, you kind of take it from there and experiment yourself until you find out what is for you and what isn't for you. And that is how ideally an identity is supposed to form. And especially what I mean by a safe environment is an environment that is warm, open, with parents that are emotionally present, a home where you can try things, make mistakes, and still feel safe. And this is not something that happens overnight. It's a long developmental process. It's a bit like learning a language as a baby. All human beings have the capacity to develop a sense of identity, but it still needs the right environment. It needs years of practice and feedback. So if this process is hampered, something very important happens. That is, you feel empty. because what is supposed to be there is an identity at the end of this process. And if this process didn't go well, a stable identity hasn't been formed. And that is why we feel emptiness. Now, let's talk about the good news. So even when we're older, we can still build a stronger sense of identity, and we can still learn how to manage intense emotions. It often starts with psychoeducation, like watching videos like this and learning what is happening inside you. And then it's all therapy and practice. So doing step by step some of the identity building and emotion regulation work. There are solid treatments for this, by the way. For example, DBT is full of practical techniques that help you not get flooded by emotions. And even if you do get flooded, you can return to normal faster using the techniques. And when that happens, there's less reason to feel empty. On my channel, I already have 2 long videos on DBT techniques that you can check out. And in future videos, I will also cover mentalizing techniques that can really help with building identity and thereby reducing emptiness. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you the next time.